Welcome to the We Are Wake Tech podcast with your host, Wake Tech President, Dr. Scott Rawls.
Welcome to the We Are Wake Tech podcast. I'm your host, Scott Rawls. At Wake Tech, we like to say lead the way, and there are a number of ways we lead the way, a number of program areas where we have among the best in the country, from ag tech to biotech, game development to analytics. What's next at Wake Tech? I'm betting on EV, electric vehicles, and the technology that will power electric vehicles in the future. As we like to say at Wake Tech, from grid to plug to wheels. What does that mean, and what will it mean for Wake Tech? We have two of the leaders who are leading the way in EV at Wake Tech. Laura Eddington, the dean of our best program, Building, Engineering, and Skilled Trades, as well as Dave Favor, our dean of transportation programs. And we're sitting in Dave's house today, one of his houses, here at the Hendrick Center for Automotive Excellence. So EV, electric vehicles. If you saw the Super Bowl, you saw the future of automobiles in our country. Currently, statistics show that 10% of automobile sales, new automobile sales, are electric vehicles. And McKinsey & Company predicts that by 2030, if we stay on the same path, it'll be over 50%. So that's a big change, but it's also a big opportunity for employment and a big need for the technicians of the future. So, Dave and Laura, what are we doing at Wake Tech related to EV, and what does that mean for your programs? Dave, let's start with you, because it's a little more obvious in terms of the automotive transportation side of the house.
At Wake Tech, we've started a new electric vehicle program, which actually includes hybrids, plug-in hybrids, and straight electric vehicles. And the difference between them is the hybrid doesn't plug into the wall. The plug-in hybrid runs on electric or on gas, and then the full electric vehicles. So the pathways are set for the regular mechanical technician, or the electric vehicle technician is sprinkled in. So it's set up so all of our students are aware of electric vehicles and the risk that are associated with it. And we teach our students to respect electricity, but not to fear electricity. And by having training aids that allow us to understand the principles and fundamentals of how the processes work, as well as diagnosing and the operation of them, allows the students to safely learn and understand how the vehicles work, and then be able to perform maintenance and repairs on the electric vehicles in the field.
And we'll dig into it a little bit more, but you've had a background in electric vehicles. Talk a little bit about your role in terms of we talk about a lot today, but even going back just a little while.
Go back a little while, back in 2008, the community colleges had a SIP. They decided to develop electric vehicle alternative training.
And SIP is Curriculum Improvement
Program.
Back then we called it Code Green, if I recall.
Yes, it was Code Green. And they, in 2008, and luckily, when we're developing the electric vehicle, Tesla was just starting out. And they invited us to come out to California and work with them to develop an electric vehicle curriculum. Fast forward 9 years, because time goes quick, Tesla became a major manufacturer of electric vehicles, and they needed a training program for technicians. So myself and a couple of their trainers started what's called START, which is a technician training program for Tesla. It started in 2017. It's been a very successful program. It's been replicated 11 times throughout the country, I believe. And I've transferred up to Wake Tech with this beautiful 100,000 square foot plus world-class facility. We have world-class equipment here. Then taking what I learned from my previous job in developing a true electric vehicle program for all makes and models. We also work with first responders and the independent garage owners. They need training for their technicians that's not available for them. And that's a need we fit. In Wake County, there's a lot of independent garage owners that don't have the ability to be trained on the procedures of electric vehicles. By having the right equipment, we can safely teach them how to be able to repair the vehicles.
Great. Well, we got the place and we got the people, so that's
Yes.
wonderful. Laura.
Yes.
So when we talk about EV and people think about EV, they typically think about cars. Mm-hmm. But to be able to have electric vehicles, you got to have plugs.
Right.
And that's where the best division comes in, the Building, Engineering, and Skilled Trades, and you're doing a lot of unique work on that plug side of the equation.
That is right. We are developing the service and the installation program to safely install all of the EV charging stations that are out there, as well as service them. Because it's not just a matter of looking at a plug. I mean, we're the ones, if you think about us, Dave is in the car in front. What we are is behind the walls.
Right.
So, we are the ones you don't see. But we need to train our technicians to be safe at working at those, also be able to understand the electronics that are in that. So we're developing a program that does that. And we've been doing the backbone of that, the PLCs, the safety, high voltage, low voltage type of equipment that we have. We've been doing solar power for a while, so we think this is a great evolution for our program in the electrical systems area to actually train our electricians to now work on EV equipment.
Well, and we've always had a lead role in terms of electricians, and this kind of takes to a whole nother demand area for probably the hottest demand job around, the electrician.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what we are going to be doing is we're going to be training. Right now we have an alternative energy track, and we're going to be adding to that alternative energy track to add the EV side of it. So we'll be looking at our local companies that are currently in that business to help us develop and train techs out there, either while the ones that are in the field or our new techs that are coming through. We train nearly 80 techs every year. It was just one more to put on their resume, and also we're looking for industry certifications. So again, our techs can go out and say, hey, I know how to fix your equipment.
And have a competitive advantage.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's important in this day and age. It's not a matter of wiring a house anymore. It's a matter of the industry and the evolutions of our industries out there, yeah.
You mentioned local companies, and North Carolina is certainly taking a lead role in the whole infrastructure of EV, from the new Toyota battery plant to VinFast and neighboring just 16, 17 miles away from Wake County, the new Vietnamese electric vehicle. We even are a lead player in lithium and battery production down in the Charlotte area. But Wake County has a very unique local role with a very big, important company that's a major player for us, and that's Siemens.
That's Siemens.
Talk a little bit about what they do in Wendell.
So Siemens in Wendell, they actually produce the charging stations, either for vehicles, trucks, or buses. And so that is what we're going to be training our techs on, is that equipment that they are producing out there. So we've got that, we've got Schneider Electric, we've got many companies in our area that are expanding into the actual infrastructure of an EV system.
It's quite an environment that is developing, but has had a core here with the Siemens presence in Wake County for a number of years.
Yes, and Siemens is going to be great. They're out in Wendell. That is where we're building our new campus, which is going to we'll be able to house this program out there as well, either on a continuing ed basis or in a curriculum environment. So we're expanding and servicing that need. They're 1.5 miles from our facilities, so it's a great opportunity for students not only to see this box that they're going to be working on, but the manufacturing of that, and understand how that is produced in this environment.
And isn't that convenient? We'll come back to that in just a minute.
Okay.
But Dave, let's switch over to you just a second. And Laura touched on something. I mean, I think Wake Tech, we've always had this unique role with electricians and how they grow into areas like solar and others, now into EV. But you talked recently about how, I heard you say, automobiles been primarily mechanical, now goes electrical, but that means we have to also shift and invest as well. Can you talk about some of the investments that we're making here? And before you do that, we want to give a particular shout out to a new announcement that we just made. $1 million, approximately $1 million, will be coming to Wake Tech. Thanks to Congresswoman Deborah Ross, who was a champion in inserting in the most recent budget bill at the federal level $1 million grant to Wake Tech to further our EV roll grid to plugs to wheels. What are you doing, and what are we doing on the wheel side in terms of EV investments, and what will that grant mean for us?
Well, the grant will mean that we have the necessary tools and equipment, and we're actually innovative. We'll be out front of the programs. There's a thing called ADAS, which is Advanced Driver Assistance Systems, which is what autonomous driving is, self-driving, your lane assist, braking assist, all the LiDAR, radar, cameras that are on the cars. everything's intertwined now. So the brake systems, when you step on the brake pedal, you don't have brake fluid going down to the cylinders anymore. Everything the suspension systems engaging to keep your car steady. So you have to understand computers, you have to understand the electrical systems, and everything's pretty much automated. And buying the right systems so we can teach the students on what's out in the garages now and out in the workplace, to have the latest and the greatest and what they're going to work on. One of the things, I was in a SAE conference, Society of Automotive Engineers, we were talking about the electric vehicles, and they had a statistic that 30% of the charging stations were broken right now. It's like going to the gas station, not being able to get gas. It's one of the big things that we're looking at fixing, and with Laura, we're going to bring a little bit of the training to us so the technicians know what the plugs and look at the charging stations are, but then also how to repair them. There's a big push there. But to answer the question, we want to be, the first out of the gate, when our technicians leave Wake Tech, they're going to know how to do the self-driving, how to do the lane assist, how to do the braking, how to do the electric vehicles. They'll be exposed to all the new technology that's being implemented in the cars.
And speaking of new technology, so we're sitting today in the Hendrick Center for Automotive Excellence, which we just opened not that long ago, and this is one of the most remarkable automotive training facilities in the United States today. And these investments are going into the future of much of automotive in our future EV, but you have some examples around you. You have a Mach-E Mustang behind you, and a new piece of equipment that just came this week. This is an example of the types of things you are investing in here for that new era of EV. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those investments?
Right. And absolutely. This to the right of me is the components that are in a Nissan Leaf, fully electric vehicle. So it allows the student to be able to diagnose, to test, to operate, and understand the fundamentals of each one of the components work. And the batteries, you see the orange on the side, are actually buried into the vehicle. You have to take a lot of components out to get to it, but with everything being up front and center, they understand how the components are connected together, how they work, how they operate. We have the inverters, the converters, being able to take DC to AC and AC back to DC. There's a lot going on in this little area here that's spread out throughout the whole car by bringing in a concise area. And it also has a lot of safety built into it, so the amps that are going through it, they keep at a lower level to make it safe. So just in case something would go wrong, you can safely operate this without hurting yourself. So you learn the proper procedures and techniques. On a training aid like this, we have the Mach-E back there.
Right behind you,
Right behind us.
Yeah.
And then outside we have a plug-in hybrid. So we have a lot of equipment here to expose to students too and see how they operate. We actually have a lot of, can't see across the wall, we have the batteries, we have the stators, the rotors, the inside of transmissions, that we show how everything operates and how you can test it safely. By buying training aids like this, it would take a student hours to be able to get down to the battery on a Leaf, where here, it's up front, they can see it right away, they can test it, and they know how to safely do it. And the same as we have a Prius coming that's a cutaway with all the components that are out front, which should be here tomorrow. With this grant money, we're gonna buy a lot of training aids that are high voltage, but are safe. So the students get the ability to troubleshoot and diagnose and repair in a safe environment, and then be able to take what they learned there and replicate out on the vehicles. So safety is always the first concern, and then the ability to see a battery there, which they don't normally see when you look at the cars.
Laura, let's segue over to you. Behind the walls, as you said, the plug and the grid side, and we can't see it right now because it's coming out of the ground. We can sit in the Hendrick Center and see now the technology that's here, but there's a huge technology new location coming for Wake Tech in Eastern Wake, in our new facility in Wendell, a mile and a half from Wendell's e-mobility, our Siemens e-mobility facility there. And so that's going to be a unique place, and you've been in the throes of designing that. What investment is coming in that future that's going to really help in that plug and that grid side of EV?
Well, the first thing we're going to look at doing is a continuing ed program to actually get us up and running. But to Dave's point, this is not for the faint of heart. We're talking about high voltage coming in, and so we're going to work with Siemens. We're actually working with them now on motor control centers, but work with them and perhaps create something that looks like operation. You know, if a tech is going to go into an unsafe environment, we want them to know it, but not actually experience it, but maybe experience a light. Green light, red light type of thing, buzzes and whistles going off saying, hey, you're just about to touch something, or you have touched something that is dangerous. So those are some of the things. It is converting AC to DC, and you know, that they need to understand that. They also need to understand the controls and everything behind that controls, because if you look at these bus systems, it's a matter of bringing that system over the bus and bringing it in. So there's a lot of electromechanical operation that's going on. So there's a lot of disciplines that we're going to be teaching our students to be safe, to be efficient, and this technology is changing rapidly, and we've got to be able to respond and be very agile to get our techs out there and up and running and as quick as we can. But again, make sure that we check all the boxes and that we are giving the industry what they need on this tech for service and installation.
You know, speaking of that, you coined a phrase, and I think you're the person who did this, but if not, you can give credit to, but the phrase super tech.
Oh yeah, our super tech. Yeah.
And I've been stealing that and using that recently, because I think that's kind of the world of Wake Tech now, is building this unique environment of super techs. I watched our automotive students get their laptops out of here, because you've said, Dave, the car is really a computer on wheels. You talked about the connection between the grid and the car and super training, and that's really also a big play of what's happening in our new Eastern campus and what you're focused on, Lauren. Can you give us a little bit, while we can't visualize it here today, tell us a little bit what that future is looking like at that new Eastern campus in the world of super techs?
Sure. So the idea, because it's a building, is a very high-tech building. That's where we want to go with that building. But it is a tech that can service many, many industries, whether it's a pharmaceutical industry, whether it's an industrial site, whether it's a service site, whether it is a design facility, a testing facility. All of this, what we're doing is we're creating a skill set that says, when you get a tech from Wake Tech, you understand the fundamental skill set that you're getting, and then maybe they'll branch off into the more mechanical or more electronics or more EST or more facilities maintenance or biopharma specific, but a fundamental tech coming out will be able to do controls, will be able to do PLCs, we'll be able to do motor control centers, we'll be able to do things like maintenance, and we're able to understand when a floor goes down. And again, we're like Dave, okay? A tech isn't in the operations anymore. A tech is outside the operations looking on their cell phone going, oh, something just went down. What can I do on my device to get it back up and running? And then go and do a service call. Because engineers are not on the floors anymore. Our techs are on the floors, and our techs need to be the ones who are quick responders.
And tying back to EV, these new big, massive facilities that are being built in North Carolina where we're going to produce the equipment those kind of super techs are going to be key in those types of facilities.
They are. And so that's what we're asking our companies to do right now, is we'll be putting a survey out in the next week or so, hopefully by March, and we'll be able to ask our companies, what is it that you need in this super tech that will be agile enough to respond to your industry needs?
Before we wrap up, one other area I'd like to note that ties into this, but where we lead the way at Wake Tech and is key for us, but both of you have been leaders in this, is apprenticeship. And I wanted to just note that, because we were talking about the East, we were talking about Siemens, and when I think about apprenticeship and my involvement in the past with companies, nobody leads the way more in apprenticeship than Siemens. And So apprenticeship at Wake Tech is, we may be one of the fastest growing apprenticeship colleges in the country. We're approaching our 100th Wake County employer. But one of those employers that we work with is Siemens in this area.
It
And
is.
can you talk, Laura, just a little bit about the apprenticeship efforts on that side of the equation?
Sure. We are working with companies. John Wojcik and I have been, pretty tied at the hip, working with companies to understand what their needs are from an apprenticeship program and getting in with those companies, understanding what an apprenticeship is, and a very non-traditional apprenticeship. Most people think of apprentice, they think of the skilled trades, and they think somebody out there on their truck, and they're shadowing an electrician, or they're shadowing an HVAC person. But what we're saying is we want to build our apprentices in the engineering technology field. And so those are the things we're working with. And so we're creating 3.5-year programs for our apprentices to go to school 1 day, 2 days a week, and also be on the site for our companies the other days, so they're servicing that company and learning their trade as they go along. Because wouldn't it be great for a company to be able to say from the ground floor of a person to be able to grow that person into their company needs, as opposed to after they complete their degree going, gosh, I wish they had that skill. We're working with them quite closely. Siemens is one of them. We're working with pharmaceutical companies as well to actually build that apprenticeship model for them.
Yeah, the Siemens apprentices have been remarkable. They graduates of start in high school, Wake
They
County
do.
Public Schools as part of youth apprenticeship, and then come to Wake Tech to finish their programs out while they're finishing that apprenticeship in that EV mobility facility there in Wendell.
They're our mechanical engineering technology
Students.
techs right now.
Yeah.
So.
And Dave, I have to give you the last word on apprenticeship, because while it's really had a core in the programs where the fastest growth areas in automotive at Wake Tech. And so I assume EV will be just another part of the opportunities for the students who are coming through the automotive program and the apprentices that are working at the dealers all around Wake County right now.
Right. And it's because of support of all the dealers that we have here and their acceptance of understanding that the Wake Tech technician coming out of our program is a highly trained, skilled technician. It's something that they want and desire in their dealerships. So they've worked with us to develop a 2-year apprenticeship program where they bring them at the very beginning, they put them with a mentor. They guide them through the program. The student gets free tuition as they go through. They get a toolbox.
Part of our Wake Works program, so shout
Right.
out to the county for that.
Wake Works, yes, and they it's just a wonderful program. They have full-time employment ready for them at the end of the tunnel, if you want to call it that, or call it the highway to success.
Yeah.
At the end of the highway, they'll have their job waiting for them, and all of the local dealerships with the Hendricks, the Capitals, Lee, Anderson, they've all set up programs with us, and it works incredibly well. And the last thing I want to say is that we've also started an EV scouting program. So
Thank you for giving that plug.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, the Explorer Post, right?
Correct. The Boy Scouts came through, and then they talked to us about Boy Scout posts together. But we want to be out there in the front and innovative, and we said, can we do something with electric vehicles? So we're the first electric vehicle Explorer post in North Carolina, if not in the United States. They're not quite sure. They've done the real research.
Until somebody proves us wrong, we'll say that. How about
Okay, so yeah, but it's we started for the high school students or anyone 16 to 20 that's interested in electric vehicles. They come here, and twice a month we meet, and we're transitioning a S10 car into an electric truck. It's wonderful to see these young, I call them kids, young students that they're excited about it. And they come in here and they want to get their hands dirty and work and learn EV, and they're our future students that'll be coming through. So it's a great program. It started, John McNary, who has his kids in scouting, came to me and wanted to start some type of scout, and he's the one who's spearheading it.
One of our great instructors.
Yes, one of the great instructors, and it's the other faculty are supporting them with it. So it's been a wonderful program, and it just started in November, and it's growing, and we just see great things happening in the future.
Well, thanks for bringing it up. There's always so much going on. I can't even keep up with everything. But, you showed that whether it's from grid to plug to wheels to apprenticeship to scouting, Wake Tech is leading the way and in this case, leading away to a future of more proliferation and more opportunities and more employment related to electric vehicles. Thank you for joining us today on this episode of the We Are Wake Tech podcast. I'm your host, Scott Rawls, and we look forward to seeing you next time with We Are Wake Tech.
I'm Lori Clowers with the latest news from Wake Tech. The fast-moving electric vehicle industry will soon have more technicians skilled in maintenance and repair. Congresswoman Deborah Ross came to the Hendrick Center for Automotive Excellence to announce nearly $1 million in federal funds to help launch new EV training at Wake Tech. The funds will go toward two types of training programs. Students in electrical systems technology will learn how to install and repair electric vehicles charging stations, while students in transportation programs will learn how to diagnose and service electric cars and trucks. The college just recently started its first EV training class. IT professionals have a new way to level up in their careers. Wake Tech now offers Degree Plus programs for working professionals and those who already have a degree. These advanced training courses, through partnerships with Momentum and Red Hat, offer opportunities to add high-demand skills for career advancement. Visit waketech.edu/Degree Plus. Wake Tech celebrated Black History Month with several events across multiple campuses. At the Beltline Education Center, a tradition of Black excellence was a cultural arts showcase of music, dance, and poetry. A few other recent events to tell you about as well. The annual Spring University Transfer Fair was a huge success. Admissions officers from dozens of colleges and universities came to recruit Wake Tech students who want to continue on toward a bachelor's degree. Local employers are also very interested in Wake Tech students. Hundreds of students in IT and business programs got a chance to meet one-on-one with companies offering internships, part-time and full-time employment at a recent career fair. And we had a backstage pass to the annual Cosmetology and Aesthetics Hair and Makeup Show at the Southern Wake campus. Students studying cosmetology and aesthetics at Wake Tech and at Vernon Malone College and Career Academy competed in several categories. The third facility on the future Eastern Wake campus is a step closer to reality. A topping out celebration was held to place the final beam atop the General Education and Student Services building at the site in Wendell. The architects were BSA Life Structures and the builder is Monteith Construction. If you're into sports, there's never been a better time to watch the Eagles soar. Go to waketechsports.com for a schedule of upcoming games for baseball, softball, basketball, beach volleyball, and esports, all going on right now. Looking for quick entry back into the job market? Wake Tech's free accelerated Propel programs range from biotech to construction to IT, healthcare, and more. Check out waketech.edu/free training. And now is a great time to apply for a degree program at Wake Tech. Whether you'd like to start in the summer or wait till fall, you should apply now. Visit waketech.edu/apply. And that's the latest Wake Tech news.
Hey, I'm Clay Fussell. I'm the Beer Brewing Education Coordinator here at Wake Tech, and I've got a couple of tips for you homebrewers out there today. So the first one is dealing with temperature. Temperature is really important in brewing. Several stages of the process, including the mash. We want our mash temperature to be consistent throughout the mash rest. But really the fermentation is where a lot of homebrewers may make some mistakes. We want to keep the temperature consistent and make sure we're not letting it get too hot, especially with things like lagers and some ales that may be temperature sensitive. The next tip I have is on keeping things simple. You really don't want to overcomplicate it, so only change one variable at a time if you're working on a recipe or new mash procedure or something like that. Try to keep things relatively simple. And of course, don't forget to have fun. So the last tip I have is patience. So unfortunately, homebrewers don't have all the bells and whistles we have here in a commercial brewery. to be able to monitor and control things. So the best recommendation I have for making beer at home is to just be patient, wait it out. Things take time, and beer takes time to mature. So in the meantime, relax, don't worry, and have a home brew.
Thank you for listening to the We Are Wake Tech podcast. Join us next month for more insightful conversations about the programs and people of Wake Tech and how the college changes lives every day. Be sure to subscribe to your favorite podcast app to have each episode delivered right to your computer or mobile device. For more, find us at podcast.waketech.edu. To learn more about Wake Tech's exceptional educational opportunities, visit waketech.edu.